The rain lashed against the Tesla's windshield, almost as strong as the beats of Amara's heart. In the back seat, the billionaire's twins fought for each breath of air. She had his stolen money in her purse and her hands firmly on the steering wheel of his car. To the world, she was a thief, a kidnapper. But on that night, with the lives of 2 children in her hands, she was their only hope. And she would not fail, even if it led her straight to prison. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now subscribe to the channel and let's get started. Miss Amara, why do some people have broken hearts? 9-year-old Leo Sterling asked, his small fingers tracing the edges of a picture book about the human body. Amara Johnson froze, dust cloth in hand. She had been quietly cleaning the massive mahogany bookshelf in the Sterling Mansion's library, hoping to remain invisible as always. The question pierced through her carefully constructed emotional armor. "Well," she said, setting down her cleaning supplies and approaching the boy. "Sometimes hearts can get sick, just like people can catch colds, but heart sickness is different." "Like mine and Liam's hearts?" Leo looked up at her with intelligent blue eyes that seemed too old for his 9 years. "Yes, like yours," Amara said softly, sitting beside him on the window seat overlooking Boston's exclusive Beacon Hill neighborhood. "Your hearts need extra care." "Like Noah's heart did?" Leo asked innocently. Amara's breath caught. She rarely spoke of Noah, her son who had died 3 years ago from the same heart condition that affected the Sterling twins. But somehow, Leo had remembered the few details she had shared. "Yes," she whispered, "like Noah's." Outside, October rain began to tap against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the mansion. Weather reports had been warning about a major storm approaching Boston for days. "Miss Monroe says we shouldn't bother Daddy with our heart stuff," Leo's twin brother Liam said, appearing in the doorway. Unlike his quieter brother, Liam carried a sketchbook everywhere filled with colorful drawings. "She says he's too busy making money." Amara carefully controlled her expression. Lexi Monroe, Julian Sterling's 28-year-old girlfriend, managed the household with cold efficiency but showed minimal interest in the twins' well-being. "Your father loves you very much," Amara said diplomatically. "He just has a big company to run." Sterling Technologies is the 3rd largest tech company in America, Leo recited as if reading from a business card. "Daddy has 23,000 employees. But he doesn't have time for 2 sons, Liam added, flopping onto the couch with a dramatic sigh. The massive crystal chandelier flickered as thunder rumbled outside. The storm was getting closer. "Why don't we bake some cookies?" Amara suggested, changing the subject. "The weather's perfect for it." Both boys brightened immediately. These small moments with the twins had become precious to Amara during her 2 years working in the Sterling household. At 35, she had never expected to find herself working as a live-in maid for one of Boston's wealthiest families. But after Noah died and the medical bills piled up, she had few options. "Can we make chocolate chip ones?" Liam asked, already heading for the kitchen. "With extra chips?" Leo added hopefully. "Of course," Amara smiled, following them down the grand hallway lined with expensive artwork that she dusted daily but never truly saw anymore. In the mansion's massive kitchen, Amara tied aprons around both boys while the wind outside grew stronger. The television mounted on the wall showed weather alerts scrolling across the bottom of the screen. "Worst storm to hit Boston in 20 years, the meteorologist was saying before Amara turned down the volume. "Miss Amara, when will Daddy be home?" Leo asked, carefully measuring flour. "Mr. Sterling is in Singapore for his business deal," Amara reminded him gently. "Remember the video call this morning?" Both boys nodded without enthusiasm. The call had lasted barely 5 minutes before Julian had rushed off to another meeting, barely asking how they were feeling. "Miss Monroe said she's going out tonight with her friends," Liam said, licking chocolate from his fingers when he thought Amara wasn't looking. "During the storm?" Amara frowned. She said the weather people are just being dramatic, Leo explained. As if contradicting Lexi's assessment, lightning flashed outside, followed immediately by a thunderclap that shook the windows. The lights flickered again. Amara! There you are! Lexi Monroe stood in the doorway, dressed in a tight black dress and high heels, her blonde hair perfectly styled. At 28, the former model managed to look both beautiful and perpetually irritated. Why are the boys covered in flour? They have their medical checks tomorrow. We're just making cookies, Miss Monroe, Amara explained. The storm's getting worse, so we thought, I need you to clean the guest bathrooms again, Lexi interrupted. The housekeeper missed spots. And make sure the boys take their medication at exactly 7 o'clock. She checked her diamond-studded watch. I'm already late. Miss Monroe, the weather reports are saying it's not safe to... I pay for weather advice about as much as I pay for housekeeping advice, Lexi said sharply. Just make sure everything is done before I get back. She left without saying goodbye to the twins, the sound of her heels clicking down the marble hallway. She doesn't like us, Liam whispered once she was gone. She likes Daddy's money, Leo corrected with the straightforward logic of a child. Amara sighed. Let's finish these cookies, and then you boys need your rest. 2 hours later, with cookies baked and dinner served, Amara helped the twins get ready for bed. The storm had intensified, rain lashing against the windows while wind howled around the mansion's stone corners. Several power outages had already been reported across Boston. Miss Amara, I don't feel good, Leo said quietly as she tucked him in. Amara immediately placed her hand on his forehead. What hurts, sweetie? My chest feels funny, and I'm really tired. Alarm bells rang in Amara's mind. She knew the warning signs all too well. Did you take your medicine earlier? Leo nodded, but I still feel funny. I'll check on you during the night, Amara promised, trying to keep her voice calm. Try to get some sleep. After making sure both boys were settled, Amara retreated to her small room in the servants' quarters. Unlike the luxurious main areas of the mansion, this section was practical and plain. Her room contained just a single bed, a dresser, and a small desk. From her dresser drawer, she removed a worn wooden box. Inside was all she had left of Noah: a few photographs, his favorite dinosaur toy, and the hospital wristband he'd worn during his final days. I miss you, baby, she whispered, touching his smiling face in the photograph. Outside, the storm reached new intensity. The mansion's emergency generator kicked on as the main power failed, casting everything in a dim, eerie light. Amara tried calling the family doctor to ask about Leo's symptoms, but the phone lines were already down. Her cell phone showed no service. The storm had knocked out the towers. Unable to sleep, she paced her small room, anxiety growing with each passing hour. Around midnight, she decided to check on the twins again. The hallways were dark except for emergency lighting. Rain pounded against the windows with such force it sounded like someone throwing handfuls of pebbles. As Amara approached the twins' bedroom, a strange sound made her heart stop. A gasping, struggling noise. She pushed open the door and flipped on the emergency light. Leo lay unconscious on the floor beside his bed. Across the room, Liam sat upright, his face contorted with effort as he struggled to breathe, his lips turning an alarming shade of blue. Amara dropped to her knees beside Leo, checking his pulse, weak but present. She looked between the twins, horror washing over her like ice water. She had seen this before, the night Noah died. As Liam's breathing became more labored and Leo remained motionless, Amara realized with absolute clarity that history was repeating itself. Only this time she wouldn't let these children die, no matter what rules she had to break. Amara ran to the twins, her heart pounding wildly in her chest. Leo remained unconscious on the floor while Liam's breathing grew more strained. "Help!" Amara screamed, her voice echoing through the empty hallways of the Sterling mansion. "Somebody help me!" She pressed her fingers against Leo's wrist, feeling his weak pulse. The storm outside continued to rage, rain and wind battering the windows like angry fists. "Liam, stay with me," Amara said, moving quickly to the other twin. "I'm going to help you and your brother." "Can't breathe," Liam gasped, his blue lips barely moving. Amara rushed to the bedroom door and shouted again, "Anyone, please, the boys need help." The mansion's night security guard, Robert, appeared at the end of the hallway. "What's happening?" he asked, jogging toward her. "It's the twins. Medical emergency. We need to get them to a hospital right now." Robert looked into the room and his eyes widened. "I'll call for help." "No time," Amara said. "The phones are down. We need to drive them." "I can't make that decision," Robert said, backing away. "Ms. Monroe needs to approve any—" "Then get her, now!" Amara shouted. As Robert hurried away, Amara ran back to the twins. She placed Leo on his bed and elevated his head with pillows. She then sat beside Liam, holding his hand. "Help is coming," she promised, though uncertainty filled her voice. Minutes later, Lexi appeared in the doorway, soaking wet from the storm, her makeup running down her face. She was obviously drunk. "What is going on?" she demanded. "I was in the middle of dinner with friends when Robert called the restaurant." "The twins are having heart episodes," Amara explained quickly. "Leo is unconscious. Liam can barely breathe. We need to get them to Boston Memorial Hospital right now." Lexi stared at the boys, then shook her head. "We can't do anything without Julian's approval." "What? They need emergency medical care." Julian left specific instructions. All medical decisions require his direct approval. Amara stood up, facing Lexi directly. "They could die waiting for his approval. The phones aren't working. The internet is down. How exactly do you propose we reach him in Singapore?" By now, other staff members had gathered in the hallway. The cook, the gardener who lived on the property, and 2 maids all stood watching anxiously. "We'll wait until the storm passes," Lexi said firmly. "Then we'll contact Julian properly." "That could be hours," Amara protested. "Look at them." Liam's breathing was growing more labored by the minute. Leo hadn't moved at all. "I'm in charge here," Lexi snapped. "Not you, just a maid who doesn't know her place." Amara looked around at the other staff members. "Please, help me get them to the hospital." They all looked away, unwilling to defy Lexi and risk their jobs. "Fine," Amara said quietly. "If you won't help them, I will." She pushed past Lexi and ran down the hallway toward Julian's office. The mansion was dark except for emergency lighting, making the familiar corridors seem strange and threatening. Julian's office door was locked, but Amara knew where the spare key was hidden. As a maid, she noticed everything. She retrieved the key from inside a nearby vase and unlocked the heavy wooden door. Inside, Julian's office was neat and organized. Amara went directly to the large painting on the wall, an original Picasso worth millions. Behind it was a safe. 3 months earlier, Amara had been dusting the office when Julian entered unexpectedly. She had pretended to clean the other side of the room while secretly watching him open the safe. Left, stop at 27, right, stop at 14, left, stop at 32. Now, her hands shaking, she turned the dial. 27, 14, 32. The safe clicked open. Inside were documents, jewelry, and stacks of cash. Amara grabbed 5 stacks, not bothering to count. She also took the keys to Julian's Tesla, which hung on a small hook inside the safe. As she closed the safe and replaced the painting, Lexi appeared in the doorway. "What do you think you're doing?" she gasped. "That's stealing." "I'm saving those boys' lives," Amara replied, pushing past her. "I'm calling the police," Lexi shouted, following her down the hallway. "Good luck with that," Amara called back. "The phones don't work, remember?" She rushed back to the twins' room. Leo was still unconscious. Liam's lips were now deep blue, his breathing shallow and rapid. "I'm taking you to the hospital," she told Liam, who nodded weakly. Amara wrapped Leo in his blanket and lifted him into her arms. "Robert," she called to the security guard, "please help me with Liam." Robert looked at Lexi, who shook her head firmly. "I'm sorry," he said. "I can't." Then you're all responsible for what happens to them, Amara said, her voice breaking. She carried Leo down the grand staircase, then returned for Liam, who was barely conscious now. The staff watched in silence as she carried the second twin downstairs. Lexi followed her, screaming threats. "You're fired! You'll go to jail for this! Kidnapping and theft!" Amara ignored her, struggling to carry both boys through the mansion's grand entrance hall to the garage. The Tesla was parked in its usual spot. Amara placed the twins in the back seat, making sure they were secure. She then counted the money she had taken, $50,000 in total. It would have to be enough. "This is your last chance," Lexi said from the garage doorway. "Stop this now." "My last chance was 3 years ago," Amara replied quietly, "when my son died because I couldn't afford the treatment he needed. I won't let that happen to these boys." She got into the driver's seat and started the car. The garage door opened automatically, revealing the storm in all its fury. Rain poured down in sheets. Tree branches littered the driveway. As Amara drove away from the mansion, she checked the rearview mirror. Leo remained unconscious. Liam's eyes were open but unfocused. "Stay with me, boys," she said. "Just stay with me." The streets of Boston were nearly empty. Fallen trees and flooding made driving dangerous. Multiple times Amara had to turn around and find alternate routes as water rose around the car's wheels. The normally 20-minute drive to Boston Memorial Hospital took almost an hour. When Amara finally pulled up to the emergency entrance, she honked the horn repeatedly until orderlies came out with wheelchairs. "Please help them," she begged, opening the car door. "Twin boys, 9 years old, with congenital heart conditions. This one is unconscious," she pointed to Leo. "And this one can barely breathe," she indicated Liam. The orderlies moved quickly, transferring the boys to wheelchairs and rushing them inside. Amara followed, the cash clutched tightly in her hands. Inside, the emergency room was chaotic with storm victims. Amara pushed her way to the front desk. "These boys need immediate help," she told the nurse. "They have heart conditions. They need a specialist." "Are you their mother?" the nurse asked, looking up from her computer. Amara hesitated for only a second. "I'm their aunt. I have emergency authority." "We'll need insurance information and—" Amara dropped the stacks of cash on the counter. $50,000. Cash. Help them now. Paperwork later." The nurse's eyes widened at the sight of so much money. She picked up a phone and spoke urgently. Moments later, a doctor rushed over. "I'm Dr. Michael Chen, pediatric cardiologist," he said. "What's happening with these boys?" As Amara explained the twins' condition, Dr. Chen listened carefully, already examining Leo. "Get them both to exam rooms immediately," he ordered the staff. "Begin ECG and prepare for possible resuscitation." As the twins were wheeled away, Amara felt a moment of relief. They had made it to the hospital. They would get help. But as she watched the emergency room doors close behind them, she realized what she had done. She had stolen from her employer, taken his children without permission, driven his car through a dangerous storm. The police would come for her soon. Lexi would make sure of that. Amara would lose her job, possibly go to jail. But as she sank into a waiting room chair, watching the storm continue to rage outside the hospital windows, she knew she had made the only choice she could live with, even if saving these children's lives meant destroying her own. Amara sat in the hospital waiting room, her hands still trembling. The $50,000 had disappeared with the admission staff, and now the twins were somewhere inside Boston Memorial Hospital receiving the care they desperately needed. The emergency room buzzed with activity as more storm victims arrived, soaking wet and injured. "Ms. Johnson?" Amara looked up to see Dr. Chen standing in front of her, his white coat splattered with tiny drops of water from the storm outside. "How are they?" she asked, jumping to her feet. "We've stabilized them for now, but their condition is serious," Dr. Chen said. "Can you come with me to discuss their treatment?" Amara followed Dr. Chen through double doors into the treatment area. The hospital smelled of disinfectant and wet clothes. In separate rooms across the hall from each other, Leo and Liam lay in hospital beds, surrounded by machines and medical staff. Leo is still unconscious, but his heart rhythm has improved, Dr. Chen explained, looking at charts on a tablet. Liam is awake but weak. We've started them both on medication to help their hearts function better. Will they be okay? Amara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Chen looked at her carefully. You said you're their aunt? Amara swallowed hard. Yes, their aunt. And their parents? Their father is in Singapore on business. Their mother isn't in the picture. Dr. Chen nodded slowly. I need to be honest with you. Both boys need more than just emergency treatment. They need specialized care that will cost significantly more than the $50,000 you brought. I can get more, Amara said quickly. Just tell me what they need. A nurse approached them, holding a clipboard. Dr. Chen, we need the guardian's signature on these consent forms for the treatments. Amara took the clipboard without hesitation and signed her name. As the nurse walked away, Dr. Chen leaned closer to Amara. You look familiar to me. Have we met before? Amara looked away. I don't think so. I've been at Boston Memorial for 15 years. I see a lot of patients, but I usually remember families. Before Amara could respond, a voice called from Liam's room. He's asking for someone named Amara. Amara rushed to Liam's bedside. The boy's face was pale with oxygen tubes in his nose. His eyes fluttered open when she took his hand. Miss Amara, he whispered. Where's Leo? He's right across the hall, she assured him. The doctors are taking good care of both of you. Are we going to die? Liam asked, his blue eyes wide with fear. No, Amara said firmly. Not if I have anything to do with it. Dr. Chen watched this exchange from the doorway, his expression thoughtful. Meanwhile, back at the Sterling mansion, the storm had finally begun to ease. The first light of dawn revealed fallen trees and flooded streets across Boston's exclusive Beacon Hill neighborhood. Inside the mansion, Lexi paced the living room, still in her wet clothes from the night before. The house phone suddenly rang, startling her. She grabbed it immediately. Hello? Yes, the landline just came back up, she said quickly. I need to report a theft and kidnapping. Across the world in Singapore, Julian Sterling sat in a luxury hotel conference room surrounded by executives in expensive suits. His phone vibrated in his pocket for the third time in 5 minutes. Irritated, he excused himself from the meeting. This better be important, he said into the phone once he was in the hallway. Julian, thank God, Lexi's voice came through, sounding hysterical. Something terrible has happened. What is it? Are the boys okay? No, they're not. Your maid, Amara, she broke into your safe and stole $50,000 in cash. Then she took the twins and drove away in your Tesla. Julian's face paled. What? Why would she take the boys? I don't know. She's always been obsessed with them. Maybe she snapped. The police are looking for her now. Where are my sons? Julian demanded, his voice rising. We don't know yet. The police are tracking your car. Julian ran his hand through his hair, his business deal completely forgotten. I'm coming home now. Have my pilot prepare the jet immediately. Back at Boston Memorial Hospital, Dr. Chen returned to check on the twins. Leo had finally regained consciousness but was extremely weak. Liam's condition had stabilized, but his heart readings were still concerning. Miss Amara, Leo whispered when he saw her. You saved us. Amara smiled, blinking back tears. You two gave me quite a scare. Dr. Chen cleared his throat. Ms. Johnson, could I speak with you privately? In the hallway, Dr. Chen's expression turned serious. I remember you now. 3 years ago, your son, Noah. He had the same heart condition as these boys. Amara's face crumpled. Yes, Noah didn't make it because you couldn't afford the specialized treatment he needed. That's right, Amara whispered. And I couldn't let it happen again. Not when I could do something about it. Dr. Chen looked back at the twins' rooms. These boys aren't your nephews, are they? Amara shook her head slowly. I'm their housekeeper. But they needed help, and nobody would do anything. You do realize this is a serious situation, legally speaking? I know I'll go to jail, Amara said quietly. But they'll be alive. Dr. Chen was silent for a long moment. The treatments they need will cost much more than $50,000. Their father is Julian Sterling, the tech billionaire. He can pay when he gets here. Dr. Chen's eyebrows shot up. Julian Sterling? The Sterling Technologies. Julian Sterling? Amara nodded. And you took his children without permission? To save their lives, Amara said firmly. No one at the house would help. His girlfriend refused to act without his direct approval, but he was in Singapore and unreachable because of the storm. A nurse approached them hurriedly. Dr. Chen, we have a problem with the older twin. His heart rate is dropping again. Dr. Chen rushed to Leo's room, Amara right behind him. For the next hour, they worked to stabilize Leo again. Amara stayed out of the way but refused to leave, watching as Dr. Chen and his team administered medications and adjusted equipment. When Leo was finally stable again, Dr. Chen looked exhausted. He needs more specialized treatment. Both of them do. Will you help them? Amara asked. Even knowing the situation? Dr. Chen looked at her for a long moment. I became a doctor to save lives. That's what I'm going to do. Thank you, Amara whispered. Don't thank me yet, Dr. Chen said grimly. The police will be here soon. Someone has reported 2 missing children and a stolen Tesla. In the Singapore airport, Julian Sterling paced impatiently as his private jet was prepared for takeoff. His phone rang again. Mr. Sterling? This is Detective Williams from Boston Police Department. We've located your vehicle at Boston Memorial Hospital. Your sons are there receiving medical treatment. Are they all right? Julian demanded. They're in critical condition, sir. The hospital says they arrived with heart-related symptoms. Your employee, Amara Johnson, is with them. Julian's jaw tightened. I'll be there in 16 hours. Don't let that woman leave. We'll be taking her into custody, sir. The charges are serious. Good, Julian said coldly. No one takes my children. As Julian boarded his private jet, hospital security cameras recorded everything as police officers entered Boston Memorial Hospital, asking for directions to the pediatric intensive care unit where Amara Johnson sat between 2 sleeping boys, holding their hands and whispering promises that everything would be okay. Amara felt a hand on her shoulder as she sat between the twins' hospital beds. She turned to see 2 police officers standing behind her. Amara Johnson? The taller officer asked. Yes, she replied quietly, trying not to wake the sleeping boys. I'm Officer Bennett, and this is Officer Rodriguez. We need you to come with us. Amara gently removed her hands from the twins. Can I have a moment to say goodbye? Officer Bennett nodded. Make it quick. Amara leaned over Leo first, then Liam, whispering something to each boy. When she straightened, her eyes were wet but her face was calm. I'm ready, she said. As the officers led her from the room, Dr. Chen stepped forward. Officers, these children are in critical condition. Ms. Johnson brought them here when no one else would help. We understand, Doctor, Officer Rodriguez said, but we have orders. She's being charged with theft and kidnapping. Amara allowed the officers to guide her through the hospital corridors. They had just reached the main lobby when the automatic doors slid open and a man rushed in, his expensive suit wrinkled from travel. Julian Sterling stopped dead when he saw Amara between the 2 officers. His face, already tired from a 16-hour flight, hardened with anger. You, he said, his voice low and dangerous. Amara met his gaze without flinching. Your sons are alive. That's what matters. You stole my money and took my children, Julian said, stepping closer. You had no right. They were dying, Amara replied. No one at your house would help them. Julian's jaw tightened. That's not your decision to make. Mr. Sterling, Officer Bennett interrupted. We're taking Ms. Johnson to the station now. You can speak with Detective Williams about pressing charges. As the officers led Amara toward the exit, she looked back at Julian. Third floor, room 312. They've been asking for you. Julian watched as the police put Amara in their car. Then he turned and hurried toward the elevator, his heart racing. At the police station, Amara sat in a small, bright room. Her fingerprints had been taken, her photograph snapped for a mugshot. She waited now, hands folded in her lap, wondering what would happen to the twins. The door opened and a woman entered. She was around 40, with curly brown hair and tired eyes. She carried a worn leather briefcase that bulged with papers. Amara Johnson? I'm Sarah Miller, your public defender. Amara looked up. They gave me a lawyer already? You're entitled to legal representation, Sarah said, sitting across from her. Though I should tell you up front, this doesn't look good. Theft of $50,000 and kidnapping 2 children? The judge set your bail at $200,000. Amara's shoulders slumped. I can't afford that. I didn't think so, Sarah said, opening her briefcase. Let's go over what happened. For the next hour, Amara told her story about Noah, about working for the Sterlings, about the night of the storm when the twins nearly died. So you broke into your employer's safe, took his money, and drove his children to the hospital without permission, Sarah summarized, making notes. Yes, Amara said simply. I'd do it again. Sarah looked up from her notepad. Why? You must have known you'd go to jail. 3 years ago, I watched my son die because I couldn't afford the treatment he needed. I couldn't watch it happen again. Sarah studied Amara's face for a long moment. I believe you, but belief won't win this case. I don't expect to win, Amara said quietly. I just want to know the twins are okay. Meanwhile, at Boston Memorial Hospital, Julian stood between his son's beds. Both boys were asleep, connected to monitors and IVs. Dr. Chen stood nearby, explaining their condition. They experienced severe cardiac episodes, Dr. Chen said. If Ms. Johnson hadn't brought them in when she did, I don't think they would have survived the night. Julian ran a hand through his hair, his anger giving way to fear. How bad is it? They're stable for now, Dr. Chen said, but they'll need ongoing specialized care. Leo's condition is better than Liam's, but both boys need to be monitored closely. Julian sat heavily in the chair Amara had occupied hours earlier. I was in Singapore. There was a storm. I couldn't be reached. That's what Ms. Johnson said, Dr. Chen replied. She was quite desperate to save them. Julian looked up sharply. You're defending her? She broke into my safe and took my children. I'm just telling you what I observed, Dr. Chen said. As a doctor who's worked with many families, I can say she acted like someone who cared deeply about these boys. Before Julian could respond, Leo stirred in his bed. His eyes fluttered open, focusing slowly on his father. Dad, he whispered, you came back. Julian moved to his side immediately. Of course I came back. How are you feeling, buddy? Tired, Leo said. Then he looked around the room. Where's Amara? She saved us. Julian's expression tightened. She had to go away for a while. But she'll come back, right? Leo asked. She promised she'd stay until we felt better. Julian didn't answer, just squeezed his son's hand gently. Dr. Chen cleared his throat. Mr. Sterling, could I speak with you in the hallway? Outside the room, Dr. Chen's face was serious. There's something you should know. 3 years ago, Amara Johnson brought her son Noah to this hospital. He had the same heart condition your sons have. Julian stared at him. What happened? Noah needed specialized treatment that wasn't covered by basic insurance. Ms. Johnson couldn't afford it. Noah died. Julian looked back through the window at his sleeping sons. Why are you telling me this? Because I think it explains why she was willing to risk everything to save your boys, Dr. Chen said. She knew exactly what would happen if they didn't get treatment immediately. Back at the Sterling mansion, Lexi Monroe paced the main living room, phone pressed to her ear. "Julian, what's happening? Are you at the hospital? Are the boys okay?" "They're stable," Julian replied, his voice tired. "Lexi, I need to know exactly what happened last night." "I told you," Lexi said. "That woman went crazy. She broke into your office, stole your money, and took the boys." "Why didn't you call an ambulance when they got sick?" Lexi hesitated. "The phone lines were down, and you always say all medical decisions need your approval." "If they were dying?" "I didn't think it was that serious," Lexi said defensively. "She overreacted." After hanging up, Lexi went upstairs to the servants' quarters. Amara's room was small and plain. Lexi began opening drawers, looking for evidence of previous theft or other crimes to strengthen the case against her. The dresser contained only simple clothes. The desk held nothing but a few receipts and a bus schedule. Then, in the bottom drawer, Lexi found a small wooden box. Inside were photographs of a smiling boy who looked around 6 years old. There was a tiny hospital wristband with the name Noah Johnson printed on it. Medical bills stamped collection in red. A small dinosaur toy, well worn from being held. Lexi picked up one of the photographs. The boy had the same heart-shaped face as Amara, the same gentle eyes. On the back was written, "Noah, age 6, 3 months before diagnosis." Slowly, Lexi put everything back in the box. She sat on Amara's bed, suddenly unsure. At the county jail, Amara was led to a small cell. The concrete walls and metal toilet offered no privacy. There was a narrow bed with a thin mattress. Amara sat down, her shoulders hunched. "First time in jail?" asked an older woman in the cell across from her. Amara nodded. "What are you in for?" "I saved 2 children's lives," Amara said quietly. The woman laughed. "That's a new one. I'm in for shoplifting food. 3rd time this year." Amara didn't reply. She lay down on the hard mattress and closed her eyes, picturing the twins' faces. In her office downtown, Sarah Miller reviewed Amara's case file again. Something about this case bothered her. She picked up her phone and called Boston Memorial Hospital. "This is Sarah Miller, attorney for Amara Johnson. I'd like to request security footage from last night when my client brought in the Sterling twins." After hanging up, Sarah began making more calls. If Amara Johnson was telling the truth, there might be a way to help her after all. At the hospital, Julian sat beside his sleeping sons, Dr. Chen's words echoing in his mind. His phone rang. His assistant with updates about Sterling Technologies. Julian ignored it. For the first time in years, business seemed unimportant. Leo stirred again. "Dad? When is Amara coming back? She always makes things better." Julian stared at his son, unsure how to answer. Leo's innocent question about Amara hung in the air between them. "She can't come right now," Julian finally said, adjusting the blanket around Leo. "Try to rest." "But she promised," Leo insisted weakly. "She always keeps her promises." Julian sighed. "Let's focus on you getting better, okay?" 5 days had passed since Amara's arrest. The storm had cleared, leaving Boston to clean up fallen trees and flooded streets. In her jail cell, Amara sat on the edge of her thin mattress, staring at the gray wall. She hadn't slept well since arriving. The judge had set bail at $200,000, an impossible sum for her to pay. A guard appeared at her cell door. "Johnson, your lawyer's here." Sarah Miller waited in a small interview room, files spread across the metal table. When Amara entered, Sarah looked up with tired eyes. "I've been reviewing your case," Sarah said as Amara sat down. "I requested the hospital security footage showing you bringing in the twins." "Did you get it?" Amara asked. Sarah nodded. "It clearly shows you carrying unconscious children into the emergency room. You look desperate, not criminal." She pushed a photo across the table. "Is this Noah?" Amara's breath caught. The photo showed her smiling son, taken months before his illness. "Where did you get this?" "Your public defender file includes basic background. I did some digging." Sarah leaned forward. Amara, your son had the same condition as the Sterling twins, didn't he? Yes, Amara whispered. He died because I couldn't afford the treatment. That's important context for your case, Sarah said. But we need more. Mr. Sterling is powerful, with expensive lawyers. I know, Amara said quietly. I don't expect to win. Sarah gathered her papers. There might be something else that could help. I found employment records showing a housekeeper named Isabella Rodriguez was fired from the Sterling household 3 months ago. Do you know her? Amara nodded slowly. Lexi fired her. Isabella liked the twins, spent time with them. Lexi didn't like that. Do you think she might have information that could help your case? Maybe. Isabella saw how Lexi treated the boys when Mr. Sterling was away. At Boston Memorial Hospital, Julian sat in Dr. Chen's office, reviewing his son's medical files. Both boys were still in serious condition, though Leo was improving faster than Liam. Liam's latest tests are concerning, Dr. Chen explained, pointing to a chart. His heart isn't responding to medication as well as Leo's. Julian rubbed his eyes. He had barely left the hospital in 5 days, sleeping in a chair between his son's beds. What are our options? We continue monitoring him closely, Dr. Chen said. But I want to be honest with you. Liam may eventually need more advanced treatment, possibly even a heart transplant. Julian's phone buzzed. Another message from Sterling Technologies about an urgent business matter. He ignored it. Dr. Chen, Julian said after a moment, tell me more about Amara Johnson's son. Dr. Chen hesitated, then opened a drawer and removed a file. This is against protocol, but I think you need to understand. He handed Julian the file. Noah Johnson, age 6, diagnosed with the same heart condition your sons have. Died 3 years ago when specialized treatment was denied by insurance. Julian read through Noah's medical history. The recommended treatment had cost approximately $50,000, the exact amount Amara had taken from his safe. She watched her son die, Julian said quietly. Yes, Dr. Chen replied. So when she saw the same symptoms in your sons, she knew exactly what would happen without immediate treatment. In downtown Boston, Sarah Miller climbed the stairs of an apartment building in a working-class neighborhood. She knocked on apartment 26. The door opened to reveal a middle-aged woman with dark hair pulled back in a bun. Yes? Isabella Rodriguez? I'm Sarah Miller, attorney for Amara Johnson. Isabella's eyes widened. I heard what happened. Please come in. Inside the small apartment, Isabella made coffee while Sarah explained why she had come. I need to understand what really happened in the Sterling household, Sarah said. Amara says you might know how Ms. Monroe treated the twins when Mr. Sterling was away. Isabella set down 2 cups of coffee and pulled out her phone. I have proof. Text messages from Ms. Monroe. She showed Sarah dozens of messages. In one, Lexi wrote, Don't bother Julian about Leo's chest pains, he's in Tokyo closing a deal. Another read, The twins can skip their meds tonight, I'm not dealing with their complaints. May I make copies of these? Sarah asked. Isabella nodded. Amara was the only one who really cared about those boys. Ms. Monroe treated them like inconveniences. Back at the Sterling mansion, Julian walked through the quiet halls. He had come home to shower and change clothes before returning to the hospital. Lexi was waiting for him in the living room. Julian, finally, she said, rising from the couch. How are the boys? Stable but serious, he replied. Especially Liam. And that woman? She's still in jail? Julian looked at Lexi carefully. Her name is Amara, and yes, she's still in jail. Good, Lexi said. After what she did? What exactly did she do, Lexi? Julian interrupted. Tell me again what happened that night. Lexi shifted uncomfortably. I told you, the boys got sick. She panicked, broke into your safe, and took them without permission. Why didn't you take them to the hospital? The storm was terrible, and you always say all medical decisions require your approval. Julian walked to the window, looking out at the garden. Leo asked about her today. What? Why would he ask about the maid? Julian turned back to Lexi. He said Amara always made sure they took their medication. He paused. Did you make sure they took their medication when I was away? Lexi's face flushed. Of course I did. Most of the time. Sometimes they're so difficult about it. Most of the time, Julian repeated. Their lives depend on that medication, Lexi. After Lexi left the room, Julian went to his office and called the head of his security team. I want all security footage from the house for the past 3 months, and I want to interview all staff members who were here the night of the storm. In his son's bedroom, Julian looked around with new eyes. On Leo's nightstand was a handmade bookmark with Noah's name written in childish letters. In Liam's drawer, Julian found a small stone with a heart painted on it. The tag attached read, "From Noah's collection. Keep it safe. Amara." At the hospital, Leo was sitting up in bed, drawing. Julian sat beside him. "What are you making?" Julian asked. "A picture for Amara when she comes back," Leo replied. He held up the drawing, 3 figures standing together, 2 small, 1 tall. "Leo," Julian said gently, "why do you care about Amara so much?" Leo looked at his father with serious eyes. "She listens to us. She remembers our medicine. She tells us about Noah." "Who's Noah?" "Her little boy who died. He had a sick heart like us." Leo returned to his drawing. "She said we reminded her of him. That's why she takes extra good care of us." Julian's phone rang. It was Dr. Chen. "Mr. Sterling, you need to come back to the hospital immediately. Liam's condition has worsened." Julian rushed back to Boston Memorial. Dr. Chen met him in the hallway outside Liam's room, where nurses worked quickly around the boy's bed. "His heart is failing rapidly," Dr. Chen explained. "The medications aren't working anymore." "What can we do?" Julian asked, panic rising in his voice. "He needs a heart transplant," Dr. Chen said, "and we've found a potential match. But the surgery and follow-up care will cost millions, and we'll need to bring in specialists from around the country." "Money is no object," Julian said immediately. "Whatever he needs." Dr. Chen nodded. "There's one more thing. The operation has better outcomes when the patient is emotionally supported by people they trust. Liam has been asking for Amara repeatedly." Julian stood silently, watching his son through the window. Liam looked so small in the hospital bed, surrounded by beeping machines. The boy who had asked for the woman Julian had put in jail. The woman who had saved his son's lives while he was halfway around the world. Julian pulled out his phone and called his attorney. "Marcus, I need you to get Amara Johnson released from jail immediately. Drop all charges." "Are you sure?" Marcus asked. "She saved my sons," Julian interrupted. "And right now my son is asking for her. I won't let him face this surgery without the person who actually cares whether he lives or dies." The morning after Julian's decision, Amara sat in the jail's visitor room, confused about why she had been called there. She wore the same orange jumpsuit she'd had for nearly a week, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. When the door opened, Julian Sterling walked in. Amara straightened in her chair. "Mr. Sterling?" Julian sat across from her at the small metal table. Dark circles under his eyes showed his exhaustion. "Ms. Johnson." They stared at each other in silence for several seconds. "How are the boys?" Amara finally asked. "Leo is improving," Julian said. "Liam is not. He needs a heart transplant." Amara's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh no." "Dr. Chen found a donor match," Julian continued, "but Liam is scared. He keeps asking for you." Amara looked down at her hands. "I'm sorry. I know I broke your trust. I stole from you and took your children without permission. But they were dying, Mr. Sterling. I couldn't watch 2 more children die from the same thing that took my son." Julian leaned forward slightly. "Tell me about Noah." Amara's eyes filled with tears. "He was 6 when he was diagnosed. The same condition as your boys. I was a single mother. My husband died when Noah was 2. I worked 3 jobs, but I still couldn't afford proper insurance." "What happened?" Julian asked quietly. "Noah needed specialized treatment. $50,000. I begged the hospital, the insurance company, everyone, but they all said the same thing. No money, no treatment." Amara wiped a tear. "I watched him get weaker every day. When he died, a part of me died too. And when you saw the same symptoms in Leo and Liam, I knew exactly what would happen without immediate treatment," Amara said. "I couldn't let them die, not when I could do something, even if it meant going to jail." Julian was quiet for a long moment. "I've been so focused on building Sterling Technologies that I barely know my own sons. When their mother left after their diagnosis, I hired people to care for them while I worked more to pay for their treatments." "They love you," Amara said. "They talk about you all the time. But they ask for you when they're scared," Julian said. "Leo told me you always remember their medication, that you tell them about Noah." "They remind me of him," Amara admitted. "Your boys are special, Mr. Sterling. Not because they're rich or because they're your sons. They're kind and brave." Julian stood up. "I'm dropping all charges against you." Amara blinked in surprise. "What?" "My attorney is filing the paperwork today. You should be released by this afternoon." "I don't understand," Amara said. "I've hired Marcus Washington to investigate what really happened that night," Julian explained. "He's one of the best attorneys in Boston. I need to understand exactly what went wrong in my household." "What about my job?" Amara asked hesitantly. "We'll discuss that after you're released," Julian said, moving toward the door. "Liam's surgery is scheduled for tomorrow morning." After Julian left, Amara sat in shock. She had expected to spend months or years in jail. Freedom seemed impossible just hours ago. At his downtown office, Marcus Washington was reviewing security footage from the Sterling mansion. The elegant African-American attorney had built his reputation representing Boston's elite, but he had a reputation for thoroughness and honesty. "Look at this," Marcus said to his assistant, pointing to a screen showing the night of the storm. The footage showed Amara running down a hallway, clearly panicked. Lexi could be seen blocking the security guard who tried to follow Amara. "She physically prevented staff from helping," Marcus noted. His assistant handed him a folder. "The financial investigation you requested, sir. There are some concerning transactions from the household accounts managed by Ms. Monroe." Marcus opened the folder and studied the documents. Regular cash withdrawals, luxury purchases not approved by Mr. Sterling. This goes back at least 6 months. Meanwhile, at Boston Memorial Hospital, Julian sat with Leo, who was finally well enough to be discharged. "Can we go see Amara before we go home?" Leo asked, putting on the clean clothes a nurse had brought. Julian hesitated. "She's still in jail, buddy." "Can't we visit her there? She must be lonely." Julian looked at his son's earnest face. "I'm working on bringing her back, but first we need to check on your brother." They walked together to Liam's room. Despite his weakness, Liam smiled when he saw his twin. "Leo, you're better." "I am," Leo said, carefully hugging his brother. "Dad says you're getting a new heart tomorrow." Liam nodded, his smile fading. "I'm scared. Is Amara coming? She promised she'd stay with us." Julian squeezed Liam's hand. "I'm doing everything I can to bring her back to you." After making sure Leo was settled with Liam, Julian stepped into the hallway to call Marcus. "What have you found?" Julian asked. "Plenty," Marcus replied. The security footage clearly shows Amara trying to get help while Ms. Monroe actively prevented it. And there's more. Ms. Monroe has been systematically embezzling from your household accounts. "Are you certain?" "Completely. And I spoke with former housekeeper Isabella Rodriguez. She provided text messages showing Ms. Monroe regularly instructed staff to hide the twins' health issues from you and to skip their medications." Julian's grip tightened on his phone. "Thank you, Marcus. Please make sure Ms. Johnson is released today. I need to take care of something at home." At the Sterling mansion, Julian found Lexi in the main living room scrolling through her phone. She jumped up when she saw him. "Julian, how are the boys? Is Leo really coming home today?" "Leo's been discharged," Julian said coldly. "Liam needs a heart transplant." "That's terrible," Lexi said, placing her hand on his arm. "But I'm sure with the best doctors—" Julian moved away from her touch. "I know everything, Lexi." Her smile faltered. "What do you mean?" Julian opened his laptop and turned it toward her. On the screen was security footage showing her stopping the security guard from helping Amara with the twins. "You prevented my staff from helping my sons," Julian said, "and that's just the beginning." He showed her the financial records Marcus had compiled. "You've been stealing from me for months. Luxury shopping sprees, cash withdrawals, all hidden in household expense reports." Lexi's face flushed. "I can explain." "And this," Julian continued, showing her the text messages from Isabella, "instructing my staff to hide the twins' health issues from me, telling them to skip medications that keep my sons alive." Lexi's mask of concern dropped completely. "You have no idea what it's like. Those boys get all your attention, all your money, while I'm stuck playing nurse to children who aren't even mine." "They're 9 years old," Julian said in disbelief. "They're sick children who need care." "They're burdens," Lexi spat. "And your precious maid was just as obsessed with them as you are." Julian's voice turned to ice. "Pack your things and leave my house within the hour. Security will watch you. If anything is missing, I'll add theft to the charges I'm already considering." "You can't do this to me," Lexi said, suddenly realizing the seriousness of her situation. "You did this to yourself," Julian replied, turning away. "And to think, while you were neglecting my children, a woman who earned minimum wage was willing to go to jail to save their lives." At the county jail, Amara was called to the processing desk. A clerk handed her a plastic bag containing her belongings. "What's happening?" Amara asked. "All charges have been dropped," the clerk explained. "You're free to go." Outside the jail, a black SUV waited at the curb. The driver opened the door as Amara approached. "Ms. Johnson, I'm David, Mr. Sterling's driver. He asked me to take you to Boston Memorial Hospital." At the hospital, Amara walked nervously toward Liam's room. She didn't know what to expect. Would Julian be angry despite dropping the charges? Would the staff treat her with suspicion? She paused in the doorway. Leo saw her first. "Amara!" he shouted, running to her. He threw his arms around her waist, hugging her tightly. Liam lifted his head from his pillow, his pale face lighting up. "You came back!" "You kept your promise." Amara moved to his bedside, taking his small hand in hers. "Of course I did. I heard you're getting a new heart tomorrow." Liam nodded. "Will you stay with me?" "I'm scared." "I'll be right here," Amara promised. From the doorway, Julian watched the reunion. The joy on his sons' faces was unmistakable. Dr. Chen approached and stood beside him. "The donor heart will arrive at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning," Dr. Chen said quietly. "The surgical team is flying in tonight. This is one of the most complex pediatric procedures, Mr. Sterling. It will cost millions, and the recovery process will be long." "Whatever it takes," Julian said firmly. Dr. Chen nodded toward Amara, who was now sitting on Liam's bed. Leo pressed against her side as she read them a story. "You made the right decision bringing her back. Children heal better when they feel safe and loved." Julian watched his sons with Amara, their faces animated despite Liam's serious condition. For the first time, he saw clearly what his money and power had failed to provide: the simple comfort of someone who truly cared. "Dr. Chen," Julian said quietly, "after we get through this surgery, I want to discuss a new project with you, something that might help other children like Noah Johnson." Early the next morning, a court officer escorted Amara into the Boston Municipal Court. Though she was no longer in jail clothes, she still felt out of place in the formal courtroom. She sat beside Sarah Miller, who smiled encouragingly. "Don't worry," Sarah whispered. "This is just a formality to officially dismiss all charges." The courtroom doors opened, and Julian entered with his attorney, Marcus Washington. They sat in the row behind Amara. Julian nodded briefly when Amara glanced back. "All rise," the court officer announced as Judge Harriet Wilson entered. "Case number 22-487, Commonwealth versus Amara Johnson," the clerk read. "Charges of grand theft and kidnapping." Judge Wilson looked at the attorneys. "I understand there's a motion to dismiss all charges." Marcus Washington stood. "Yes, Your Honor. My client, Julian Sterling, wishes to withdraw all complaints against Ms. Johnson." "Mr. Sterling," the judge said, "please approach." Julian walked to the front of the courtroom. "You understand that these are serious charges, Mr. Sterling? Ms. Johnson allegedly stole $50,000 from you and took your children without permission." "I do understand, Your Honor," Julian replied. "But new evidence has come to light. Ms. Johnson acted to save my sons' lives when no one else would help them. She didn't steal my money. She used it for exactly what I would have wanted: medical care for my children." The judge studied Julian's face. "Very well. All charges against Amara Johnson are hereby dismissed. Ms. Johnson, you are free to go." Outside the courthouse, Amara stood uncertainly on the steps. The morning sun felt strange on her face after days in jail. "Ms. Johnson," Julian said, approaching with Marcus, "may I speak with you?" Sarah squeezed Amara's arm. "Call me if you need anything," she said before walking away. Julian looked uncomfortable. "Thank you for coming to court." "Thank you for dropping the charges," Amara replied. "Liam's surgery is scheduled for tomorrow morning," Julian said. "He keeps asking for you." "I promised I would be there," Amara said. "I'll come to the hospital today." "Actually," Julian said, "I wanted to ask you something. Would you consider returning to the mansion?" Amara looked surprised. "To work as a maid?" "No," Julian said quickly, "to help care for the twins. Not as staff, but as—" He hesitated. "As someone they trust, someone who understands their condition." Amara was quiet for a moment. "Mr. Sterling, I appreciate the offer, but I need to be clear about something. If I return, it can't be like before. I won't be invisible or treated as less than human." "I understand," Julian said. "Do you?" Amara asked. "Because for 2 years I cleaned your house and cared for your children, and until last week you barely knew my name." Julian looked away, embarrassed. "You're right, things would be different. You would have a real role in the twins' care. Your experience with Noah makes you uniquely qualified to help them." "On my terms," Amara said firmly. "I want respect and a voice in decisions about the boys." "Agreed," Julian said. "David is waiting with the car. We can stop at your apartment for your things, then go to the mansion to get settled before visiting Liam at the hospital." An hour later, David pulled the car up to the Sterling mansion. Amara looked at the enormous stone house with new eyes. For 2 years, she had entered through the service entrance in the back. This time, David drove to the front door. "Ms. Johnson, welcome," said Mrs. Rivera, the housekeeper who had replaced Isabella. Her tone was respectful, not the dismissive one she had used with Amara before. "I'll show you to your room," Julian said, leading Amara up the grand staircase. Instead of turning toward the servants' wing, Julian led her down the main hallway of the family floor. He opened a door to reveal a beautiful suite with a sitting room, bedroom, and private bathroom. "This is for me?" Amara asked in disbelief. "Yes," Julian said. "It's across from the twins' rooms. I thought it would be convenient." Amara walked into the room, touching the soft bedspread. The windows overlooked the garden. There were fresh flowers on a small table. "Your things from the servants' quarters have been moved here," Julian explained, "including Noah's box." Amara turned to him, eyes wet. "Thank you." "I'll let you get settled," Julian said. "We should leave for the hospital in 1 hour." See, after he left, Amara sat on the edge of the bed, overwhelmed by the sudden change in her circumstances. A week ago, she had been a maid, then a prisoner. Now she was… what exactly? She unpacked her few belongings, placing Noah's box carefully on the dresser. Then she showered and changed into clean clothes. When she came downstairs, Julian was waiting in the kitchen with Leo. "Amara!" Leo exclaimed, running to hug her. "Dad says you're going to live with us now." "That's right," Amara smiled. "I'm going to help take care of you and Liam. In a real bedroom, not the tiny maid room," Leo said. "I saw it. It's next to mine." "Leo," Julian said, "remember what we discussed about privacy?" "Sorry," Leo said, "but it's so much better than your old room." At the hospital, they found Liam awake and nervous. His face brightened when he saw Amara and Leo. "You came back," he said to Amara. "Of course I did," she replied, sitting beside his bed. "I promised, didn't I?" Dr. Chen entered with several other doctors. "Mr. Sterling, Miss Johnson, this is Dr. Amanda Walker, our transplant surgeon, and Dr. James Patel, our cardiac specialist. The donor heart is being transported now," Dr. Walker explained. "We'll begin surgery at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. It will take approximately 14 hours. 14 hours? Leo gasped. "That's forever." Dr. Patel smiled kindly at Liam. "You'll be asleep the whole time. When you wake up, you'll have your new heart." "Will it hurt?" Liam asked in a small voice. "You'll be sore afterward," Dr. Walker said honestly, "but we'll give you medicine for the pain." After the doctors left, Liam looked scared. "Amara, what if I don't wake up?" Amara took his hand. "You will. Do you know how I know?" Liam shook his head. "Because you're strong. Noah was strong too. The night before his surgery, he was scared just like you." Amara reached into her pocket and pulled out a small stone with a heart painted on it. This was his lucky stone. He said it helped him be brave. "The one you gave me before," Liam whispered. "Yes. I want you to have it for your surgery." Liam closed his fingers around the stone. "Thank you." That evening, Julian showed Amara to his home office, a place she had previously only entered to clean. Now he invited her to sit across from him at his desk. "I want to discuss Liam's recovery," Julian said. "Dr. Chen says he'll need constant care for at least 6 months. "I can help with that," Amara said. "I took care of Noah through his treatments." Julian nodded. "The East Wing is being converted into a recovery suite. Dr. Chen has recommended live-in medical staff for the first month." "What about your work?" Amara asked. "Will you be traveling again soon?" Julian shook his head. "I'm restructuring things at Sterling Technologies. I'll work from home more." "That will be good for the boys," Amara said. "They miss you when you're gone." "I'm starting to realize how much I've missed," Julian admitted. He hesitated, then added, "There's something else I want to discuss with you." He turned his computer screen toward her. On it was a document titled Noah Johnson Foundation. "What is this?" Amara asked. "Just an idea at this point," Julian said. "A foundation to provide funding for children with heart conditions whose families can't afford treatment." Amara stared at the screen, her throat tight. "You would do that?" "With your help," Julian said. "After Liam's surgery, after he's stable, I'd like to develop this further." Amara looked at Noah's name on the screen. He would have liked that, helping other kids. The next morning, they arrived at the hospital before dawn. Liam was already being prepped for surgery. Amara and Julian stood beside his bed while Leo held his twin's hand. "Remember, 14 hours is normal," Dr. Chen told them. "A nurse will provide updates every hour." "Oh?" Liam clutched Noah's stone tightly. "Amara, will you be here when I wake up?" "I'll be right outside the whole time," she promised. "And I'll be here when you open your eyes." As the nurses prepared to wheel Liam to surgery, Julian surprised everyone by leaning down and hugging his son tightly. "I love you, Liam. More than anything in the world." "I love you too, Dad." Liam whispered. They watched as Liam was wheeled away down the long hospital corridor, his small hand still clutching Noah's stone. Julian and Amara looked at each other, both understanding that the next 14 hours would feel like the longest of their lives. Whatever happened, things would never be the same. The waiting room at Boston Memorial Hospital was nearly empty at 6 o'clock in the morning. Amara sat in a chair near the window, while Julian chose a seat on the opposite side of the room. Leo had been taken home by Mrs. Rivera, the housekeeper, to rest. Now it was just the two adults, waiting as Liam's heart transplant surgery began. A nurse with a kind face entered the room. "I'm Nancy. I'll be bringing you updates throughout the day." She looked between Julian and Amara. "The surgical team has started. Dr. Walker asked me to tell you that the donor heart arrived in perfect condition." "Thank you," Julian said stiffly. After Nancy left, silence filled the room again. Amara pulled a small book from her bag and began to read. Julian opened his laptop but stared at the screen without typing. "What are you reading?" Julian asked after 20 minutes had passed. Amara held up the book. "It's about children with heart conditions. I've been reading it since Noah was diagnosed." Julian nodded, then returned to his silent staring. At 7 o'clock, Nancy returned. "Everything is proceeding normally. They're preparing to remove the damaged heart." "Already?" Amara asked. "These first steps go quickly," Nancy explained. "It's the connection of the new heart that takes time and precision." By 8 o'clock, Julian had moved to a chair closer to the center of the room. Amara remained by the window, watching the hospital parking lot fill with cars. "Do you want coffee?" Julian asked suddenly. "I'm going to the cafeteria." "Yes, thank you," Amara replied. "Black, please." When Julian returned with 2 coffee cups, he sat in the chair next to Amara's. "The cafeteria is getting busy. Doctors grabbing breakfast before rounds." "Thank you for the coffee," Amara said. At 9 o'clock, Nancy brought another update. "They've successfully removed Liam's heart. The team is now inspecting the donor heart one final time before implantation." "His heart is actually out of his body?" Julian asked, his face pale. "Yes," Nancy said. "He's on a heart-lung machine that keeps his blood circulating. It's standard procedure." After she left, Julian looked shaken. "I've never really understood what this surgery involves." "It's hard to imagine," Amara agreed. "When Noah needed surgery, I made the doctors explain every step to me. I needed to understand what he would go through." "Tell me about Noah," Julian said suddenly. "Not just his illness. What was he like?" Amara smiled softly. "He loved dinosaurs. T-Rex was his favorite. He collected rocks and leaves. He was quiet but very observant. He could sit for hours watching birds at the park." She paused. "He was brave. Much braver than I was when he got sick." Julian nodded. "Leo and Liam are so different from each other. Leo is the thinker. Liam is the artist. But they both love space. I built them a telescope on the roof of the mansion, but I've never actually used it with them." "They talk about that telescope all the time," Amara said. "They'd love to use it with you." The hours passed slowly. At noon, they ate sandwiches from the cafeteria. At 1 o'clock, Nancy reported that the new heart had been successfully placed in Liam's chest and the team was now connecting all the blood vessels. "The most critical part is coming," she explained, "when they remove the clamps and allow blood to flow through the new heart." By 2 o'clock, Julian and Amara were sitting side by side, both lost in their own thoughts but somehow comforted by each other's presence. Then, at 2:30, Nancy rushed into the waiting room, her face serious. "Dr. Walker needs to speak with you immediately." They followed her to a small consultation room. Dr. Walker entered, still wearing her surgical gown with a mask pulled down around her neck. "We have a complication," she said without preamble. "Liam's body is showing signs of rejecting the new heart." "What does that mean?" Julian asked, his voice tight with fear. "His immune system is attacking the donor heart as a foreign object," Dr. Walker explained. "We're giving him standard anti-rejection medications. but they're not working as well as we'd like." "What are our options?" Amara asked. "We have two choices, Doctor," Walker said. "We can continue with the standard protocol, which is safer but may not be effective enough. Or we can try an experimental anti-rejection treatment that's shown promising results in early trials, but carries more risks." "What kind of risks?" Julian asked. "Increased risk of infection, possible damage to other organs, and potentially longer recovery time," Dr. Walker listed, "but also a higher chance of successful acceptance of the donor heart." Julian ran his hands through his hair, overwhelmed. I can't." He looked at the doctor helplessly. "Which one would you choose?" Dr. Walker shook her head. "I can't make that decision for you. Both options have risks and benefits." Julian froze, the weight of the decision paralyzing him. Medical terms swirled in his head, and all he could see was Liam's small face, scared but trusting. Amara stepped forward. "Dr. Walker, can you tell me more about this experimental protocol? Has it been used on children Liam's age? What's the success rate compared to standard treatment in cases like his?" Dr. Walker turned to Amara, answering her specific questions with detailed information. Amara asked about side effects, recovery protocols, and long-term outcomes. After listening carefully, Amara turned to Julian. "I think we should try the experimental protocol. From what I learned with Noah, heart rejection can happen very quickly. If the standard medications aren't working now, waiting could cause permanent damage to the new heart." Julian looked at her, grateful for her clarity. "You're sure?" "It's what I would choose for Noah," Amara said simply. Julian nodded. "Then that's what we'll do for Liam." Dr. Walker hurried back to the operating room, leaving Julian and Amara alone in the consultation room. "Thank you," Julian said quietly. "I couldn't think clearly." "It's overwhelming," Amara acknowledged. "When Noah was sick, I read every medical journal I could find. I learned all the terminology, all the procedures. I thought knowledge would give me control." She paused. "It didn't save him, but at least I understood what was happening." They returned to the waiting room. The clock seemed to move even more slowly now. Each update from Nancy was analyzed carefully for signs of improvement. At 5 o'clock, the news was cautiously positive. "The new anti-rejection protocol appears to be working. Liam's body is showing less resistance to the donor heart." Julian sighed with relief. That was the right decision. "We still have many hours to go," Amara reminded him. "But yes, it seems to be helping." As evening approached, the hospital grew quieter. Julian and Amara had been at the hospital for over 12 hours. They were tired but too anxious to sleep. "Why did you become a maid?" Julian asked suddenly. "You're clearly intelligent and capable." Amara looked down at her hands. "After Noah died, I was destroyed. Not just emotionally, but financially too. The medical bills took everything I had. I couldn't focus on anything challenging. Being a maid was simple. Clean this, dust that. And living at the mansion meant I didn't need to pay rent while I tried to rebuild my life." Julian nodded. "My father was a mathematics professor at MIT, brilliant but cold. Nothing I did was ever good enough. When I started Sterling Technologies, I was determined to prove him wrong." "Did you? Prove him wrong?" Julian smiled sadly. "He died before the company went public. He never saw my success." He paused. "I was so focused on building something impressive that I made the same mistake with my own sons. Always working, always absent." At 8 o'clock in the evening, exactly 14 hours after the surgery began, Nancy came into the waiting room smiling. "Dr. Walker is coming to speak with you. It's good news." Dr. Walker entered, looking exhausted but pleased. "The surgery is complete. The new heart is functioning well, and the anti-rejection protocol is working. Liam is being moved to recovery now." "He's okay?" Julian asked, standing up. "He's not out of the woods yet. Dr. Walker cautioned. The next 48 hours are critical. But yes, the surgery itself was successful. Relief washed over Julian and Amara. Without thinking, they turned to each other and embraced. Julian's arms wrapped tightly around Amara's shoulders as she pressed her face against his chest. The hug lasted only seconds, but it transformed something between them. "When can we see him?" Amara asked, stepping back with slight embarrassment. "He'll be in intensive care for at least 24 hours, Dr. Walker explained. "You can see him briefly once he's settled, but he won't be conscious until tomorrow." As they followed Dr. Walker toward the intensive care unit, Julian turned to Amara. "I think we've just begun something important here, and it's bigger than both of us. Tomorrow, I want to show you what the Noah Johnson Foundation could really become." 2 weeks had passed since Liam's successful heart transplant surgery. The Sterling mansion had transformed in that time. The entire East Wing now contained medical equipment, hospital beds, and monitoring systems, everything needed for Liam's recovery. The sound of medical staff moving quietly through the halls had become normal. On a sunny morning, Amara checked Liam's vital signs in his new recovery suite. The 9-year-old boy was propped up in bed, his color much improved from the pale, sickly child he had been before surgery. "How are you feeling today?" Amara asked, writing numbers on his chart. "Better," Liam said. "Can I go to the garden today?" "We'll ask the nurse," Amara promised. "Your body is still getting used to your new heart." "It feels weird," Liam admitted. "Knowing someone else's heart is inside me." Amara sat on the edge of his bed. "That heart is yours now, and it's working perfectly." From the doorway, Leo appeared with a tray of food. "I brought breakfast. Dad helped make the toast." Amara smiled. Leo had become his brother's dedicated helper during recovery. "That's very thoughtful." "Is Dad in his office again?" Liam asked as Leo set the tray across his lap. "Yes," Leo said. "He's working on a secret project. He won't tell me what it is." Amara had noticed Julian spending many hours in his office lately. Her own position in the household had evolved into something undefined. Not a servant anymore, but not quite family either. She managed Liam's care schedule, coordinated with the medical staff, and ensured both boys kept up with their studies despite the disruption. After making sure Liam ate his breakfast, Amara went downstairs to the kitchen. Mrs. Rivera was preparing lunch. "Ms. Johnson," the housekeeper said respectfully, "Mr. Sterling asked to see you in his office when you have a moment." "Thank you," Amara replied, still unused to the staff treating her as someone important. She walked through the mansion's grand hallways, passing expensive artwork that she used to dust daily. Julian's office door was open, but Amara still knocked gently on the frame. "You wanted to see me?" she asked. Julian looked up from his computer. "Yes, please come in." The office seemed different now that she entered it as a guest rather than a cleaner. Julian gestured to a chair across from his desk. "How is Liam this morning?" he asked. "Good. His vitals are stable. He's asking to go outside." "That's promising," Julian said. "Dr. Chen will be here this afternoon for his checkup." Julian seemed nervous, shuffling papers on his desk. "Amara, do you remember what I mentioned at the hospital about the foundation?" "The Noah Johnson Foundation," Amara said softly. "Yes, I remember." Julian turned his computer screen toward her. On it was a detailed presentation. "I've been working on this for weeks, actually, since before Liam's surgery." Amara leaned forward to see architectural renderings of a modern building. "What is this?" "The proposed headquarters for the Noah Johnson Foundation," Julian explained. "To be built in downtown Boston." He clicked through more slides showing floor plans, organizational charts, and budget projections. The foundation would provide full funding for children with heart conditions whose families can't afford treatment, Julian continued. "Starting in Boston, then expanding across the country." Amara stared at the screen, overwhelmed. "This is incredible. But why are you showing me?" Julian took a deep breath. Because I want you to run it, as president of the foundation. Amara's eyes widened. Me? But I've never run anything like this. I'm not qualified. You're exactly qualified, Julian insisted. You understand the healthcare system's failures better than anyone. You know what these families go through, both emotionally and financially. But I was a maid 2 weeks ago, Amara said. I don't have business experience or… You have life experience, Julian interrupted. The foundation needs someone who cares deeply about its mission. Someone who understands what's really at stake. He opened a drawer and pulled out a thick folder. I've allocated $2 billion to fund the foundation. $2 billion, Amara gasped. The endowment will generate enough interest to fund operations indefinitely, Julian explained. We can help thousands of children every year. Amara stood up and walked to the window, trying to process what Julian was proposing. I've already assembled a team of medical, legal, and financial experts who would work under your direction, Julian continued. You wouldn't be doing this alone. I don't know what to say, Amara said quietly. You don't have to decide right now, Julian assured her. Think about it. Amara nodded and left the office, her mind racing. She walked upstairs to Leo's room, where the twins were now playing a board game together. Liam sat in a wheelchair, still too weak to walk far. Amara, Leo called. Come play with us. She sat with the boys, trying to focus on their game, but Julian's offer kept distracting her. What's wrong? Liam asked, noticing her distraction. You look worried. Your father offered me a job, Amara said. A big job. What kind of job? Leo asked. Running a foundation to help sick children, Amara explained. Children with heart problems like you and Liam, and like Noah. That sounds perfect for you, Leo said immediately. I don't know if I can do it, Amara admitted. It's a huge responsibility. Liam reached for her hand. You took care of us when no one else would. You can take care of other kids too. Is that why Dad's been in his office so much? Leo asked. Planning this foundation? Amara nodded. He's been working very hard on it. You should say yes, Liam said firmly. Noah would want you to help other kids. The simple truth of the 9-year-old's words touched Amara deeply. Later that afternoon, Dr. Chen arrived to check on Liam. After the examination, he spoke with Julian and Amara in the hallway. His recovery is proceeding well, Dr. Chen reported. The anti-rejection medications are working and his body is accepting the new heart. When can he start physical therapy? Julian asked. We can begin gentle exercises next week, Dr. Chen said, but full recovery will take several months. After Dr. Chen left, Julian headed toward his home office. I have a video conference with my executive team in 10 minutes. How is Sterling Technologies managing with you working from home? Amara asked. Julian's expression changed. There's been some resistance. The board isn't happy with my reduced schedule. Will it be a problem? It's my company, Julian said firmly, and my priorities have changed. That evening, Julian's video conference ran longer than expected. Amara could hear raised voices from his office as she passed by with laundry for the twins. This is unacceptable, Julian. A man's voice boomed from the computer. You've missed 3 major client meetings. The Singapore deal is falling apart without your direct involvement. Find someone else to handle it, Julian replied. My son just had a heart transplant. I'm not leaving Boston. The board is concerned, another voice said. Your personal situation is affecting company performance. My personal situation is my family, Julian said coldly. Something I've neglected for too long while building Sterling Technologies. The next morning, Amara knocked on Julian's office door again. He looked tired, as if he hadn't slept well. I've made my decision, Amara said, sitting across from him. I'll accept the position as president of the Noah Johnson Foundation. Julian's face brightened. You will. On one condition, Amara added. I want to be involved in every aspect of building it, from the mission statement to the application process for families. This needs to work for real people, not just look good on paper. Absolutely, Julian agreed. I wouldn't want it any other way. They spent the next hour discussing initial steps. Julian showed Amara more detailed plans for the foundation headquarters, the staff structure, and the application process for families seeking assistance. Their planning was interrupted when Mrs. Rivera knocked urgently on the office door. "Mr. Sterling, there are reporters outside the gate," she said. "They're asking about a new foundation for children with heart disease." Julian frowned. "How did they find out?" "Someone from your office must have leaked it," Amara suggested. Julian sighed. "We weren't ready to announce this yet." "Maybe it's not a bad thing," Amara said. "The sooner people know about the foundation, the sooner we can start helping families." Julian looked at her with admiration. "You're already thinking like a foundation president." That evening, as Julian and Amara tucked the twins into bed, Leo asked the question that had been on his mind all day. "Dad, does this mean Amara will stay with us forever now?" Julian and Amara exchanged a glance, neither sure how to answer. "I'll be here as long as you need me," Amara said carefully. "But where will you live when you're running the foundation?" Liam asked. "We haven't figured out all the details yet," Julian replied. As they left the twins' rooms, Julian paused in the hallway. "There's one more thing I want to discuss with you before the foundation announcement. I've spoken with my lawyers about making you the twins' legal guardian alongside me, because I've realized that money and power mean nothing if you don't have the right people to share your life with." Amara stared at Julian, shocked by his words. "Legal guardian. You want me to help raise the twins," Julian finished. "Officially, legally." "But why?" Amara asked. "You're their father." Julian leaned against the hallway wall. "Because they need more than just me. They need someone who understands their condition, who sees them as people, not just patients." He paused. "They need you, Amara." "This is too much," Amara whispered. "The foundation, and now this." "You don't have to decide tonight," Julian said. "Think about it." 6 months later, the Sterling mansion buzzed with activity. Caterers moved through the grand rooms, setting up elegant food displays. Security personnel checked credentials as Boston's most prominent business leaders, politicians, and media figures arrived. In the entrance hall, large photographs lined the walls, children of different ages and backgrounds, all with the same medical diagrams of heart conditions beside their smiling faces. In the center, larger than the others, hung a portrait of Noah Johnson, his bright eyes and wide smile freezing him forever at age 6. Amara stood in front of Noah's photograph, adjusting her navy blue business suit. No more maid's uniform, no more blending into the background. Today she stood at the center of everything. "Are you nervous?" Leo asked, appearing beside her in a child-sized suit. "A little," Amara admitted. "You look different," Leo said. "Important." "I'm still me," Amara assured him. Liam joined them, walking slowly but steadily. 6 months after his transplant, his strength had gradually returned. "Dad says people are ready. We should go to the ballroom." The Sterling Mansion's ballroom had been transformed into a presentation space. Rows of chairs faced a small stage with podiums. Boston's elite filled the seats, whispering curiously about why they had been summoned. "I heard Julian is announcing a merger," one investment banker murmured. "My sources say he's stepping down as CEO," replied a technology reporter. At exactly 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Julian stepped onto the stage. The crowd quieted immediately. "Thank you all for coming," Julian began. "Many of you think this is about Sterling Technologies. It's not." Confused murmurs spread through the audience. "6 months ago, my life changed completely," Julian continued. "My son Liam needed a heart transplant to survive. My son Leo was also seriously ill. Their condition is genetic, expensive to treat, and potentially fatal. The room was silent now. Everyone focused on Julian's words. My sons survived because I could afford the best care in the world. But I've learned that many children die from the same condition simply because their families can't pay for treatment. Julian gestured to the back of the room. Amara, would you join me, please? And bring the boys. Amara walked to the stage with Leo and Liam on either side of her. They stood beside Julian, facing the crowd. This is Amara Johnson, Julian said. 6 months ago, she was a maid in my household. Today, I'm proud to make 2 announcements regarding her future. Julian turned to a screen behind him as it displayed the Noah Johnson Foundation logo. First, I am creating the Noah Johnson Foundation, endowed with $2 billion to provide heart treatments for underprivileged children across America. Amara will serve as the foundation's president, with full authority over its operations. Gasps and whispers filled the room. Reporters furiously took notes. The foundation is named for Amara's son, Noah, who died 3 years ago from the same heart condition that affects my sons. Noah didn't receive the treatment that could have saved him because his mother couldn't afford it. No child should die because of a bank account balance. Julian gestured for Amara to speak. She stepped forward, her hands trembling slightly. Thank you, Julian, she said. Noah was 6 years old when I lost him. He was kind, curious, and brave through his illness. The foundation named for him will ensure that other children get the chance he didn't have. She spoke clearly and confidently, despite never having addressed such a prestigious crowd before. We will begin accepting applications from families next month. Our first priority will be children already on transplant waiting lists whose families lack adequate insurance coverage. Julian returned to the microphone. My second announcement is more personal. He placed his hands on the twins' shoulders. With the twins standing beside him, Julian revealed that he had asked Amara to become their legal guardian alongside him. I've asked Amara to become the legal co-guardian of Leo and Liam, Julian said, and she has accepted. The crowd erupted in shocked conversations. A billionaire sharing legal guardianship of his children with a former employee was unprecedented. My priorities have changed, Julian explained once the noise settled. I now understand that wealth means nothing without family and compassion. Amara risked everything to save my sons when I wasn't there for them. She deserves to be recognized as the parent she has already become in their hearts. Leo and Liam beamed up at Amara, who blinked back tears. I accept this responsibility with deep gratitude, Amara said. These boys have become as dear to me as Noah was. Together with Julian, I will ensure they grow up healthy, happy, and kind. After the presentation, reporters surrounded Julian and Amara with questions. Dr. Chen, who had been invited to the event, handled the medical inquiries about the foundation's mission. Later that evening, after the guests had departed, Julian, Amara, and the twins sat in the kitchen eating pizza, a celebration requested by the boys. Did you see their faces when Dad made the announcements? Leo laughed. They looked so surprised. People don't expect things to change so much, Julian said, but sometimes they do. Are we a real family now? Liam asked, looking between Julian and Amara. We are, Julian confirmed. Different from most families, but real. 1 year later, the Sterling Mansion hosted a smaller gathering, the first anniversary of the Noah Johnson Foundation. In the garden, a dozen children played on the lawn, all recipients of the foundation's assistance. Their parents mingled with doctors, donors, and foundation staff. Inside, Amara sat at her desk in what had once been a formal sitting room but was now her home office. Photographs covered the walls. Noah, the twins, and children helped by the foundation. Her phone rang. Ms. Johnson? This is Boston Children's Hospital. The Martinez girl's surgery was successful. She's in recovery now. That's wonderful news, Amara said, making a note in her file. Please send the family anything they need. In the mansion's library, Julian helped Leo with a science project about the human heart. The 9-year-old boy had developed a passionate interest in medicine since his brother's transplant. Will I be a good doctor, Dad? Leo asked. You'll be an excellent doctor. Julian assured him. "You understand what patients feel. That's important." In the garden, Liam sat under a tree, drawing in his sketchbook. His new heart had given him strength and energy he'd never had before. Dr. Chen sat beside him, visiting as both doctor and friend. "What are you drawing today?" Dr. Chen asked. Liam showed him the sketchbook, a detailed drawing of a boy who looked like him but with wings. "It's my donor. Mom says we don't know who he was, but I like to imagine him watching over me." Dr. Chen smiled at Liam's use of mom to describe Amara, something both twins had started doing months earlier. That evening, after the celebration ended, Amara tucked the twins into their beds. Though they were now 10 years old, they still enjoyed this nightly ritual. "Mom," Leo said sleepily, "do you think Noah would be proud of what we've done?" Amara sat on the edge of his bed. "I know he would be. We've helped 27 children get the treatments they needed this year. 7 heart transplants, 15 specialized surgeries, and 5 experimental treatments." "And nobody had to pay," Liam added from his bed across the room. "That's right," Amara said. "Nobody had to choose between saving their child and paying their bills." "I wish we could have met Noah," Leo said. "He would have been our friend." "He would have loved you both," Amara agreed, her voice soft with emotion. After the boys fell asleep, Amara found Julian in his office reviewing foundation documents. "They're asleep," she said, sitting across from him. Julian set down his papers. "Happy anniversary." "I never imagined my life could change so completely," Amara said. "From losing everything to this." "You changed my life too," Julian reminded her. "You showed me what really matters." He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the moonlit garden. "The board finally stopped fighting me about my reduced schedule at Sterling Technologies. Our stock price is up 15% since I reorganized my priorities. Turns out being a better human makes you a better CEO," Amara said with a smile. "Who would have thought?" Julian laughed. "The twins asked if we could use the telescope this weekend, stargazing expedition, and they'd love that," Amara said. "Family night under the stars." As they walked together through the mansion that had once separated them by class and position, Amara paused at Noah's photograph in the entrance hall. She touched it gently, as she did every night. "He would be proud of you," Julian said quietly, understanding her ritual. "Noah would be proud of all of us," Amara replied, "for remembering that family isn't about who you're born to, but who you'd risk everything for." If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen.